The desert heat shimmered across the two-lane highway, warping the horizon into a watery illusion. Dust danced in lazy spirals behind an aging pickup truck crawling along the roadside, its paint sun-faded and chipped. Inside, two men sat in silence, the kind that only forms between people who have seen enough of each other's pain to not need words. Cole adjusted his cap, the brim frayed and sweat-stained. His hands, scarred and calloused, tightened on the steering wheel as he squinted into the glare. He looked like a man who had once been solid, but now lived in the shadows of something he wouldn't speak about. Beside him, Nate, 10 years younger, but with eyes just as tired, glanced occasionally out the window, tapping his knee in restless rhythm. He didn't bother with small talk anymore. Cole didn't answer when he did. They weren't heading anywhere in particular. That was the point. The land out here didn't ask questions. It just gave you enough space to be forgotten, if that's what you needed. It was Nate who saw it first. "Slow down," he muttered, leaning forward. "You see that?" Cole followed his gaze, letting the truck coast to a stop. Out in the scrub, maybe 30 yards from the road, something dark moved barely. At first, it could have been a rock or a shadow, but then it shifted again, struggling to rise, only to collapse in a cloud of dust. "Horse," Cole said quietly. They sat for a beat longer, staring. Then, as if moved by the same silent cue, both men opened their doors. The sun met them like a slap. Boots crunching on brittle ground, they moved toward the figure. As they closed the distance, the details came into focus. Long, unshorn mane tangled with burrs, ribs visible beneath a coat dulled by dehydration, and hooves cracked and overgrown. The horse was a Mustang, wild and proud by birthright, but now reduced to something broken. Cole knelt down slowly, his movements deliberate and respectful. The horse's sides heaved, nostrils flaring as it tried again to stand but couldn't. Its eyes rolled toward them, wide with panic and pain. "Easy, boy," Cole murmured. "Ain't here to hurt you." Nate moved around the side, squinting beneath the horse's belly. Then he stopped. "Oh, hell," he said. "What?" Cole stood. "Come look." Cole did, circling slowly. And there, tucked beneath the collapsed weight of the Mustang, was something neither of them had expected. A second shape. Smaller. A foal. It wasn't moving. Cole's stomach dropped. Nate stepped back, exhaling sharply. Must have been trying to shield it. From the heat, the coyotes, who knows. For a moment, neither man spoke. The wind picked up, rustling the creosote bushes. Somewhere in the distance, a hawk cried out. Then the foal twitched. "Wait!" Cole stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "It's alive." The mare stirred as if she sensed their realization. She let out a low, trembling sound, more breath than whinny. Protective. Pleading. "We need to get them out of here," Nate said. "She's dying, Cole." Cole was already moving, stripping off his flannel shirt and laying it over the foal's fragile body. "She won't move without him. We lift her, we kill her. But we lift him. He might not survive." Cole looked at him. "But we have to try." Back at the truck, they rummaged through supplies. An old wool blanket, a coil of rope, 2 near-empty water jugs. Cole grabbed his canteen, the metal warm to the touch, and carried it back to the mare. Gently, he tipped it toward her mouth. She drank, trembling. Nate knelt at the foal's side. Its chest rose and fell in shallow gasps. He could see the raw pink skin beneath its thin coat, sunburnt, blistering. The mother had done her best, but the desert was cruel. Together, they slid the foal onto the blanket. The mare whinnied in panic, thrashing weakly. "She's trying to get up," Nate said. "Let her," Cole whispered. "Let her see him safe." With effort, they hoisted the foal between them, careful not to jostle its fragile limbs. Step by step, they made their way back toward the truck, the blanket swinging gently like a hammock. Halfway there, they heard it, the unmistakable sound of hooves on rock. The mare was following. She stumbled, nearly fell, but forced herself upright. Each step looked like agony, but she wouldn't be left behind. Nate looked over, his voice tight. "That's not instinct. That's love." They reached the truck and lowered the foal into the bed, padding it with more cloth to shield against the hot metal. The mare collapsed again just beside the vehicle, sides heaving, head lolling. We can't lift her, Nate said. She's too heavy. She'll follow, Cole said. She has to. They poured the last of the water into a bowl and placed it just in reach. Then they stood, breathless and sweating, watching the mare. Minutes passed. Finally, she moved. Just a few inches. Then more. It was a crawl, not a walk, but it was forward. They didn't cheer or speak. They just opened the tailgate and climbed into the cab. Cole turned the key. The truck roared to life. As they pulled onto the road, the mare let out one more cry. It wasn't a scream. It was something quieter, but more haunting. A sound made of pain and desperate hope. Cole didn't look at Nate. We take them to Marisol. She's not going to be happy. She's also the only one with a barn and vet contacts. Nate nodded. Let's just hope we're not too late. The desert rolled past them in long waves of gold and red. Behind, in the truck bed, the foal stirred once more. The mare limped slowly after them, a ghost against the horizon. And for the first time in months, maybe years, the men didn't feel quite so lost. They had found something out here, something worth saving. And they didn't yet know it, but what they'd seen under that dying Mustang would change everything. The mare didn't make it far. By the time they reached the outskirts of Dust Creek, she'd collapsed again on the side of the road, barely clinging to consciousness. Cole had been watching her in the rearview mirror, eyes darting from road to reflection with increasing worry. When she fell for the second time, he stopped the truck so fast the tires screamed against the pavement. She's done, Nate said, jumping out before the dust even settled. We're going to lose her. Cole was already moving, heart pounding, every instinct firing. They rushed to her side, but it was clear. Her legs trembled without lifting, and blood had started to seep from where her skin had split under pressure. Come on, girl, Cole whispered, kneeling beside her. You didn't come this far just to quit now. She tried to raise her head, but even that seemed too much. The heat, the pain, the sacrifice. Her body had given more than it had to offer. Cole placed a steadying hand on her cheek. Her eye met his. There was a flicker there, something not entirely defeated. Trust, maybe. Or desperation. Either way, it was enough to make his voice break. I need you to hold on. Nate returned with the jug from the back of the truck, still warm, nearly empty, and poured the last few ounces onto an old towel, pressing it against the mare's mouth. She licked weakly at it, a reflex more than a desire. We've got to get Marisol now, Cole said, rising. She has a horse trailer. We can't drag this animal another mile. Nate hesitated. You trust her to come? She won't say no. They left the mare under a small patch of mesquite, shaded as best they could manage. The foal stirred weakly in the back of the truck. Every movement looked like it could be its last. Cole hated turning his back, but they had no choice. Dust Creek was a town so small it could be missed if you blinked. But what it lacked in size, it made up for in memory. Cole hadn't been back in over 2 years. Not since the accident. Not since his brother's horse bucked and fell, and Cole, drunk, reckless, screaming at shadows, had blamed the wrong things. He didn't speak on the drive in. Nate kept glancing at him, but said nothing. He knew enough not to press. They turned onto a dirt lane lined with white fencing and wilting rose bushes. At the far end sat a modest ranch house with peeling paint and sagging gutters. Behind it, the unmistakable silhouette of a barn rose into the golden sky. Marisol was already outside, arms crossed, stance tight as a bowstring. She hadn't aged much, still tall, lean, with dark braids tucked under a wide-brimmed hat. Her eyes, though, told a different story. You have a lot of nerve, she said as they climbed out. Cole didn't answer. He didn't need to. We found a Mustang mare collapsed in the heat, Nate explained. She had a foal underneath her. Still alive. Barely. That cracked her expression. She unfolded her arms, stepping forward. Where? 8 miles back. Near mile marker 17. She exhaled through her nose, nodding. I'll get the trailer. Cole moved to follow, but she stopped him with a look. You're not riding with me. I wasn't planning to. They waited in the truck while she hitched up the trailer and roared out onto the road. Cole stayed silent until her dust trail vanished over the rise. She hates me, he said flatly. Nate shrugged. She has her reasons, but she still came. Cole nodded, eyes on the horizon. That counts for something. It took over an hour to get the mare loaded. She didn't fight. She couldn't. But there was a moment, brief, flickering, when her eyes met Cole's again as they guided her into the trailer. Something passed between them. Gratitude. Or maybe just resignation. Back at the ranch, Marisol directed everything with quiet authority. The foal was placed in a makeshift recovery stall inside the barn. The mare was given fluids, gently cleaned, and wrapped in cool towels. She looked more dead than alive, but there was a heartbeat. And that was enough for now. Marisol worked in silence, only occasionally glancing at Cole. He stayed out of her way, hovering near the stall, but not interfering. When she finally addressed him, it was with her back turned. "You've changed." "Not enough," he said. "No," she agreed. "But some." They didn't speak again for a long time. Later, as the sun bled orange across the sky, Nate sat on an overturned bucket near the foal, watching its tiny chest rise and fall. Cole joined him, crouching with a grunt. The air smelled of hay and iodine, tinged with something older, something sacred. "She's stable," Nate said. "For now." Cole didn't answer. He was watching the foal, its head twitching as it tried to nuzzle against the air, searching blindly. "She needs a name," Nate added. "You always said names matter." Cole nodded slowly. "They do." They sat in silence a while longer. Then Cole whispered, "Phoenix." Nate looked over, rising from ashes. "Yeah." The name settled into the space between them like a soft wind. From across the barn, Marisol leaned against the doorframe, arms folded again, but this time, not closed off, just thoughtful. "You think she'll live?" Nate asked. "I think she wants to," Cole replied. He stood, brushing straw from his knees, and stepped into the shadow of the stall. The foal moved again, slightly, but with purpose. Its legs kicked gently, as if remembering something ancient and wild. Life. "She was born in fire," Cole said quietly. "Desert heat. Coyotes. No water. Her mother gave everything." Nate rose beside him. "Now it's our turn." The sun dipped lower, drawing long shadows across the barn floor. Outside, the trailer door creaked in the breeze. Inside, hope stirred in the form of a fragile foal named Phoenix, and a mare who had not yet given up. Cole looked toward the stall once more, then at Marisol. She met his gaze. They didn't smile, but they didn't look away. By morning, the mare was still alive. That in itself felt like a small miracle. Her breathing had steadied overnight, and her eyes no longer drifted in a daze of exhaustion and pain. She couldn't stand yet, but she lifted her head when Marisol approached with a bowl of soaked feed and a voice softer than Cole had ever heard from her. It wasn't affection. Not yet. It was respect. Cole stood back and watched, hands buried in his jacket pockets, still coated in the dust of yesterday's frantic rescue. Nate had passed out in the tack room sometime before sunrise, curled in a pile of blankets. No one had the heart to wake him. "She's stronger than she looks," Marisol murmured, stroking the mare's cheek with slow, deliberate movements. "You know, there's a reason wild horses survive where others don't. It's not strength. It's will." Cole nodded but said nothing. His throat still held the ache of too many swallowed words. They'd moved Phoenix to the adjacent stall, blanketed and cushioned with old hay bales and every spare towel they could find. The foal had begun standing, briefly, legs trembling like reeds in the wind, but each attempt lasted a little longer. Her eyes followed movement now. She responded to touch. She even tried to call for her mother once, a pitiful bleat of a whinny that rattled through Cole's bones like a memory. "She's fighting," he said, more to himself than anyone else. Marisol didn't look at him. "She'll need more than fight. She needs you." Cole turned, puzzled. "Me. She trusts you," Marisol said, still watching the mare. "You were the one who reached her in the canyon. You got close enough to see what was under her." The moment came rushing back, his hands pressing against the dry earth, the sickening tension in the mare's body, and the soft, pulsing life hidden beneath. The scream hadn't come from fear. It came from awe, from the raw shock of witnessing something ancient and holy, a mother dying to protect her child. I'm not the man for this, Cole said after a beat. You know that. You were, she replied, finally meeting his eyes. Maybe you could be again. Later that day, a vet arrived from the next town over. An older woman named Dr. Layton. She carried herself with a no-nonsense efficiency that demanded attention. She examined the mare first, nodding at Marisol's makeshift treatment with quiet approval. She's lucky, the vet said. If you hadn't gotten her out when you did, she'd be dead. Another few hours, and the foal too. Cole watched her face carefully. What now? Recovery. Fluids, rest, nutrition. The foal needs colostrum. It's critical in the first 24 hours. Without it, her immune system's compromised. Marisol frowned. She hasn't nursed yet. She's tried, Nate said from the door, having woken and overheard. But the mare's too weak. Dr. Layton stepped into the foal's stall and knelt. Then we'll have to supplement. Bottle feed her until the mare's strong enough, or until the foal can make do on her own. Cole stepped forward. I'll do it. Marisol looked up, surprised. I'm here, he added simply. Let me help. The process wasn't easy. Phoenix was skittish at first, rejecting the bottle, flailing against unfamiliar touch. But Cole didn't push. He sat on the straw-covered floor for hours, letting her come to him in her own time. She did eventually, first by sniffing his hand, then by leaning into his shoulder, finally by accepting the warm milk that dripped slowly from the bottle into her eager mouth. Something shifted that afternoon. Nate returned to town to fetch more supplies. Dr. Layton left with promises to return in 2 days. Marisol and Cole were alone in the barn, tending the mare and foal in a rhythm that felt almost natural. She's named Phoenix, Cole said while brushing the filth from the mare's mane. The foal. I figured, Marisol said. It suits her. She's stronger than I thought. They always are, Marisol replied, then paused. Even you. Cole smiled faintly. I don't feel strong. You don't have to be strong all the time. Just willing. He looked up, his fingers pausing in the mare's tangled mane. Is that what you believe? That willingness can undo what's broken? I believe people change, she said, if they want to, and if they're brave enough to face what they ran from. There it was, the unspoken thing. Cole felt it rise in his chest like heat. The accident, his silence, the year he vanished, leaving Marisol to grieve the brother they both loved while he drowned in guilt. I didn't come here to make peace, he admitted. I came for the horse. I know, she said, but maybe the horse came for you. They said nothing more after that, not because the moment was over, but because it had landed, settled. The tension didn't vanish, but it softened. There was air in the room again, shared breath. That night, Cole stayed in the barn, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Phoenix lay beside him, curled against his legs like a fragile shadow. Her chest rose and fell in slow, steady rhythm, and every beat reminded him that something had been saved. He closed his eyes just before dawn, feeling a peace he hadn't known in years. Not forgiveness, not yet, but hope. And that was enough for now. Morning broke with golden shafts of light streaming through the cracks in the barn walls. Dust swirled in the quiet glow, dancing in the beams like drifting spirits. Cole awoke on the straw-covered floor, a light weight pressing against his side. Phoenix had nestled herself beside him during the night, her body curved around his like a question finally answered. He didn't move at first. He just lay there, watching the rise and fall of her breath, feeling the warmth of her trust. It was the first time in years he had woken up without that familiar tightness in his chest. The guilt hadn't left him, but it had loosened, just enough to breathe. Marisol entered quietly, her boots brushing the straw. She paused when she saw them, her hand resting on the stall door. She didn't speak, just nodded once, and Cole knew it meant everything. I think she likes you, she said finally, voice low and amused. She doesn't know better, he replied, but the corners of his mouth tugged upward. Marisol walked over to check the mare, who had managed to get to her knees, head raised and watching Phoenix with alert, maternal eyes. She whickered softly, Phoenix responded with a squeal and a tottering dash to the divider between them. "She's trying to stand," Marisol whispered. "The mare's trying." Together they watched, breath held, as the mare planted one trembling front leg, then the other. Her back legs shifted, uncertain, wobbling beneath her gaunt frame. Sweat dotted her shoulders, and her eyes blinked furiously against the strain. "Come on," Cole murmured. "You've made it this far." With a groan and a heave, she lifted herself onto all fours. She swayed like a tree in a windstorm, her legs buckling once before finding balance. Phoenix let out a high-pitched whinny and bolted around the stall in joy. "She stood," Marisol said, tears in her eyes. "She stood for her baby." They opened the gate between the two stalls, and Phoenix ran to her mother, nuzzling beneath her belly. The mare didn't move at first, her exhaustion still heavy, but then, as if remembering what it meant to live, she shifted her weight just enough to let the foal latch on. Cole turned away, blinking hard. Dr. Layton returned that afternoon and stood dumbfounded at the sight. "She's nursing? Already?" "She decided it was time," Marisol said. "Or maybe the foal did." The vet did her checks, scribbling notes with more energy than her usual clinical manner. "You're not just lucky," she said, glancing between Cole and Marisol. "You've done something right here." When she left, Nate returned with news. "There's someone asking about the Mustang. From the reserve. Says she might be one of their tag mares. Went missing months ago during a lightning fire." Cole stiffened. "They want her back." "They want to help," Nate said. "They heard what happened. They're offering sanctuary, a proper recovery pen, specialists, and a place for the foal to grow up free." Marisol looked at Cole. "We can't keep her here forever." "I know." He walked to the stall, resting his arms on the gate. Phoenix looked up at him, bits of straw stuck in her mane. Her eyes held that unfiltered light only babies have, as if every soul they meet might be the one to save them. He knelt down. She trotted over. "She's not mine," he said aloud, mostly to himself. "But I think she was meant for me. Just long enough." He pressed his forehead to hers. "You reminded me who I was." Marisol stood beside him, her voice soft. "You reminded me, too." Cole turned. "I thought I lost everything after Eli. I thought running would make it stop hurting." "It didn't," she said. "No," he replied. "It just hurt different." There was a long pause before she asked, "So what now?" He looked at her, not just her face, but her presence, her steadiness, the fire she'd never lost, even when he had. "I want to stay," he said, "if you'll let me." Marisol smiled, tired and genuine. "I was hoping you'd say that." They drove the Mustang and her foal to the reserve 2 days later. The transport trailer rumbled down dusty roads toward open land, golden fields stretching to meet the horizon. Phoenix whinnied every few miles, and Cole answered her each time with a soft knock on the side panel, just to let her know he was still there. When they arrived, a group of rangers greeted them with quiet reverence. One of them, an older Navajo man named Joseph, placed a hand on the mare's neck and closed his eyes. "She returned," he said, "and she brought the sun with her." The mare walked out on her own. Phoenix followed close behind, wide-eyed at the vastness before her. There were other horses, wild ones, watching from the ridge. One by one, they began to descend. "She'll be okay here," Joseph said. "I know," Cole replied. They watched as Phoenix took her first steps into the open, into freedom. Her mother moved slowly, but steadily, like something ancient reborn. The herd accepted them without hesitation. No questions, just belonging. Back at the trailer, Marisol reached into her coat and handed Cole something, a small, worn horseshoe. "From the canyon," she said. "You dropped it that night. I kept it." He ran his thumb over the metal. "Thank you." She smiled. "Welcome home." They drove back in silence, the kind that feels like music when words are no longer needed. Cole looked out the window, watching the land blur past. He thought of Phoenix, galloping somewhere out there, of the scream he'd let out when he'd first seen her. A scream not of fear, but awakening. The sound of a man remembering what it meant to feel again. And somewhere deep inside, a spark lit, a promise he intended to keep. Because sometimes, helping something broken heal is how we heal too.